The gravity and the responsibility of this role has a way of inhabiting you.
Today is a day that ends in Y, so Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is gaslighting us again. We're going to break this down. Welcome back to the channel. But a lot is happening in Democratic politics and progressive politics with the rise of these three Democratic Socialists of America, the ultra far left crazy party, congressional candidates who won the Democratic primary and are now going to become members of Congress because they're in deep blue seats. So the general election is a bit of a formality. And AOC, who is very much a rising star in Democratic Party politics and is often discussed as a 2028 potential nominee or VP nominee. Well, she was asked about this in a series of recent interviews. She was asked about the truly insane positions that some of her new buddies in Congress have decided to take on everything from abolishing prisons to total open borders to beyond, really. I mean, it is genuinely just the things that fringe party stands for and that these candidates have expressed support for are things that I would rarely even hear in the most radical echo chambers on a left-wing university. And yet, these are their beliefs. AOC was asked about them and decided to do an unfortunate combination of a Kamala Harris impression and just pure gaslighting, rather than actually reckon with any of the substance of these insane things her new buddies actually believe in. Let's watch.
She attended a pro-Palestinian rally in Times Square the day after the Hamas attacked Israel. She said she was worried about an outsized reaction that cost thousands of people their lives. She has not backed away from attending that rally. She deleted a Twitter account that had a number of posts that called for the abolishment of police and prisons. According to CNN in 2021, this is what there's a reference to. She posted, "A world without borders, just like a world without prisons or police, is possible and necessary and the only moral way forward." She's again has said those posts don't reflect who she is today. You do not speak for her. You speak for yourself. And I know she's tried to distance herself. She's probably under a greater level of scrutiny she's ever been in her life. But does any of that give you pause?
I think that, as you said, she has indicated that she has regret over the way that she issued those statements. And
hang on a second. So you have a crazy person rambling on Twitter just a few years ago that she wants no police, no prisons, and open borders. An absolutely disqualifying series of fringe takes that just demonstrate a total disregard of any common sense or any basic understanding of human nature and how a society has to function. And AOC is asked if any of those statements give her pause. And she's like, well, she has expressed a regret. So the answer is no, then. That's crazy. Why are people so allergic to criticizing their own side or to distancing themselves from crazy things that somebody they're friendly with has said? You could say, like, I'm excited to work with Daria Liza, the new congresswoman, soon to be, on, affordable housing and healthcare, but I don't co-sign the crazy radical things she said about prisons or police or ending all immigration enforcement. I mean, this is the same woman who literally wouldn't say whether murderers should be imprisoned for life, and she wouldn't say whether somebody who murders someone and is here illegally should be deported. She actually was like, no, they shouldn't. I'm not kidding. We went over this on the channel. And AOC still can't bring herself. That's partisan brain rot, right? From this woman who was originally sold to us as like a independent, rising star. She'll break with and she'll criticize, the centrist Democrats. But these crazy radicals, she can't bring herself a word to, because that's the truth is, in her heart of hearts, she agrees with them. And she's just has a more polished persona that she wants to present to the cameras. But she's true at heart. I think she's from that camp. So I'll let her, and I think we're about to get to the part where she decided to do her best Kamala Harris impersonation.
And
let's listen.
I genuinely believe that the gravity and the responsibility of this role has a way of inhabiting you. And
Kamala?
I genuinely believe that we have to give people the opportunity to occupy their beliefs within the gravity of becoming a duly elected member of Congress.
Oh, yeah. So true, bro. We have to give people the opportunity to occupy their beliefs within the gravity of the role of becoming a member of Are we really doing like 2 a.m. high dorm room thoughts and Kamala Harris impersonations now, AOC? I thought you were better than that. I really did. Now, what the translation of what she's saying is that, sure, these people said all this insane, disqualifying, crazy, extreme stuff, but maybe they'll act normal once they're in Congress and they realize the gravity of the issues they're handling and the importance of their role. And I'm like, okay, I mean, maybe they'll act somewhat more normal, or they won't say as crazy stuff because they'll have consultants and staffers, telling them not to say that. But that doesn't change the fundamental issue, which is that they're that crazy at heart. All of these statements were made as full-grown adults, right? We're not talking about like things they tweeted when they were 14 years old or doing that kind of, we're not cancel culturing them. We're analyzing their statements as public advocates and activists and intellectuals from their full-fledged adult careers, and then saying, hey, let's not put crazy people in Congress. And I felt the same way about I feel the same way about far-right candidates who, I remember when Marjorie Taylor Greene ran for Congress, she had all this past of all these insane conspiracy theories and all this stuff. And I thought that was totally disqualifying and she shouldn't have been elected as a result. Yeah, I feel the same way about somebody who wants to abolish prisons, all policing, let the murderers loose and allow hundreds of millions of people into the United States unvetted. That's equally, if not more insane than the craziest QAnon Jewish space lasers insanity. So we have to allow crazy people to have a seat in Congress and then see if they can become normal because of the gravity of that seat and the effect it has on them. Or we could just not send crazy people to Congress. We could try sending semi-rational, normal adults. That would be my preference, but who am I? I'm not AOC in her infinite wisdom. So let's watch the second clip of her discussing this here on MS Now with Jen Psaki.
You talked about this week kind of how the...
Sorry, I just have to pause already to say, look at this diabolical chyron that MS Now put on this. This is the most biased spin I've ever seen. AOC responds to fear-mongering aimed at left wing. How is it fear-mongering? I'm going to crash out. Fear-mongering, that implies that it's not true, that it's baseless or made up, or it's some kind of hysteria, when it's absolutely true that the party these folks are affiliated with believes all these crazy things, and they have, in their own words, made all these insane statements. That's not fear-mongering. That's justified concern. But here we go with the diabolical chyron here from Jen Psaki, who was a longtime Democratic staffer and Biden press secretary and is now ostensibly an independent news host. Same way they do that on Fox. They just make Republican flacks news hosts. We're supposed to pretend that's normal. It's obviously not. It's hideously biased. And I guess that's how you end up with chyrons like this that are truly diabolical. But sorry. Anyway, let's watch the
kind of how the fear-mongering, you had deja vu, I think is how you described it. And you just alluded to that and what you just said now. What advice are you giving or would you have for these new members who are coming in and are already being painted in a certain way? And I want to talk about them too. But what advice do you have for them about how to get things done while still shaking up the system at the same time?
So AOC is asked here by Jen Psaki to give advice to these incoming far left members of Congress. And it actually could be interesting to hear what advice she would give them, but she just chose not to. She could have said, hey, you guys should enter and be humble about what you do and don't know, about how these complex issues function, and learn from more experienced people, and don't, come in with every preconceived notion hardened into just an abstinent perception in your mind. Come in with an open mind, try to work with Republicans. They might be more receptive than you think on some things. She didn't say any of that. Instead, she suggested that the existing members of Congress should learn from these people, the DSA, abolish prisons, open borders, crazies. Yes, AOC, tell us more about that.
Yeah, I think new and incoming members have no shortage of advice that's being given to them.
Well, but you lived it.
Yes,
you
yes.
lived it in a very different way.
Yes, and I mean, I'll get to them, but I actually think the more important advice that I would give would be to my incumbent colleagues, which is you will create a self-fulfilling prophecy by deciding who these young women are before you've met them. And if you are already panicking and sending little messages in your group chats about how these people need to be reined in and tamped down and shown their place, you are creating the antagonistic dynamic that we do not need.
It's actually crazy to say that it's like, imagine they elected fringe congressional candidates who've called leaders of the Democratic Party, like Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, rapists and war criminals. And then AOC's out here saying, if you're an existing, establishment or centrist member of Congress and you have some concerns about that, you are creating the adversarial dynamic with these new people. Well, actually, no, they ran on y'all being evil. So they created an adversarial dynamic. And it's a totally sane and normal reaction to lunatics being elected in your party and sent to Congress, if you're somebody in that party who's semi-sane and normal and moderate, to be very concerned about that and texting in your group chats. And there's like a weird inversion of reality here from AOC where she's suggesting they're creating the antagonism or the problem when these candidates literally ran on attacking them viciously and saying they're evil. But don't prejudge them and create antagonism. What are we doing here, folks? I don't understand.
These are two young, talented, intelligent women that got elected against all odds, against millions of dollars. Perhaps there is something we can learn from them.
Yeah, I mean, we can learn how to be crazy, how to tweet psycho things. I mean, I guess you could argue these women do have some sort of talent or charisma to even get this far. Sure, I don't dispute that. I certainly agree with the idea that like there's good or some positives or some assets or positive attributes in most people. But I highly doubt AOC would be saying the same thing about some like charismatic but crazy new Republican that just got elected. She wouldn't be saying, don't prejudge them. You could learn from them. No, she's saying this because she's sympathetic to their radicalism. And we all know it. Now, on the other side of the aisle or coin here, because it's not really the aisle because they're all on the same side of the aisle because they're all Democrats, some more moderate and I would say more sane Democratic members of Congress have spoken out against the rise of this new extreme DSA-aligned brand of Democratic politics. Let's watch a clip from Fox News reporting on their statement and decision to speak out of these more moderate Democrats.
There are certain things that I believe in that are not being reflected in the current environment, especially with some of these races on Tuesday. And as we said in our pledge, we're for capitalism, not socialism. We're for safety, not lawlessness. We're proud of America, not ashamed of America. And we need to be promoting those things. And, the far left and the far right, they're all very well organized. But those of us that don't support those far left or far right principles need to do a better job organizing and getting our message out.
That was Tom Suozzi, a moderate Democrat from, I think, upstate New York, or at least from New York. I'm not sure where. And he and 13 other members of the House did issue this public statement saying that they're for capitalism, not socialism, patriotism, and loving America and these other things. And I appreciate that. They're sticking their neck out there. I give them credit for it. I'm always happy to welcome anybody who's going to take a sane or sensible position on something. However, I will say that unfortunately for us, unfortunately for the Democratic Party, unfortunately for those individuals, they're not really winning. The mojo and momentum is not in their favor at all. It is very much against them. The wind is behind the sails of these kinds of radicals. And I unfortunately fear we're heading to a place in American politics where we're going to have ultra-left DSA type politics on one hand, and then like far-right nationalist, populist demagoguery on the other hand. And sensible, moderate people are going to be politically homeless at that point, even though we kind of are already, if you ask me. That's just my take. You guys will have to let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you aren't yet. Hit the like button to reward my suffering through all this insanity. Do consider becoming a channel member. It's the best way to support my work here, my independent commentary. YouTube views are down, especially for political creators on long-form content. Everyone's just spamming shorts instead and other stuff. So if you can support me and by becoming a channel member, hit the join button down below or whatever you can do. And I do videos as well reacting to member comments and questions. So if you have something you want to say or get my thoughts on, you can become a channel member and drop it down below. Regardless, guys, we'll leave it there for now, and we'll talk again real soon.